Hello, today is Wednesday, April 29th, 2020. I'm Joe Schmidt from TC2, and this is Staying Connected. This is part 2 of a 2-part podcast series where we are taking a look at how the global pandemic is impacting enterprise networks. I'm again joined by Andrew Brown, who is the managing partner of LB3 and the chairman of TC2. Andrew, welcome back. So we left off from the last podcast talking about some of the technical and usage implications of the pandemic. Let's pick up part 2 here by looking at how enterprises need to be looking at their contracts and how they go about sourcing during these times. Let me start. Let's talk about force majeure. That's one of those provisions in a contract that doesn't really get too much attention except from lawyers. And I expect that that's going to change in this new world we live in.
Yeah, it is a popular topic for lawyers. It's also about one of 3 phrases in French I actually know, even if I doubt I pronounce it correctly. So basically it means an act of God, which is, just so dramatic, and it's part of the contract that deals with the stuff that people always say is never going to happen. And the list of force majeure events in a typical contract is really just a parade of horribles, right? I mean, earthquakes, riots, blackouts, tornadoes. But get this, it also includes things like epidemics, quarantines, and acts of civil or military authority.
So things that are never going to happen.
Exactly, right? Who would have thought? So nobody really wants to ever invoke force majeure because it's like the locusts have arrived, but, here we are. So traditionally, a force majeure event prevents or delays one party from performing its obligations. And in network infrastructure deals, we usually think of that in terms of something that happens to the provider that prevents them from providing the services. A hurricane knocks out their wireless towers, or an earthquake disrupts a fiber route, or whatever. But interestingly, right now, the provider's services haven't really been affected in that kind of way. And we haven't yet heard of instances or work with clients where one of the parties is invoking force majeure yet. We are, however, hearing about delayed installations, but it's not always because the provider can't get to the site or isn't willing to do anything at the site. It's that the end user a lot of times can't be there to manage the installation because they don't have the people, or the site is closed to outsiders, or it's just closed in general, or whatever. So in this case, the customers are delaying performance, which could have an impact on their ability to satisfy commitments. And we've started to see instances where transitions to a new provider is being delayed because the customer can't get the services moved on the implementation schedule that they agree to. And that can create back-end problems with their incumbent provider, where their deal is kind of running out of time, as well as the inability to move to the new provider. So in all those cases, force majeure hasn't been invoked yet, but it's a possibility that we may see in the coming months as a reason for why those delays are happening.
So what else should companies be doing?
Well, I think there's a general consensus that there's going to be a longer-term impact on the economy that's going to hit a lot of businesses, and some very hard. And that may result in reductions to purchases under their agreements, either due to closed facilities or reductions in demand, whatever it might be. So companies need to take a look at changes to their spend relative to the financial commitments they have in their deals. It's really the classic business downturn that we talk about a lot when we do these sourcings. So companies should prepare by seeing what their agreement provides in that instance now. We work really hard with our clients to negotiate business downturn clauses that have real value, that allow for adjustments to commitments or extensions of time to satisfy commitments. But a lot of deals that don't pay attention to this issue either have nothing addressing the issue, or sometimes it's a clause that says business downturn, but it's mostly worthless, just an opportunity to talk to your provider about the problem.
Ah, yes, the will talk provision that caused you and me to cringe. But sometimes you do have to just go and talk to your service provider.
Yeah, of course. And it's always better to do that with some contract leverage. But look, if you're in dire economic straits because of this, you can go to your provider and start working with them. You may not even see a reduction in your network usage as a result of the pandemic, but you may have seen unprecedented hits to your revenue and thus your ability to pay for critical network services. So working out payment terms or delays to payment are totally legitimate reasons to go talk to your provider. You can ask for credits or even write-downs. Everything's on the table at this point. Nothing's outrageous. These are crazy times right now.
Yeah, but now you get into an area where you need to be careful about what you give your vendors long-term to get some sort of short-term relief.
Yeah, this always worries us, right? Vendors never let a good crisis go to waste. They can always give you savings today for long-term lock-in. So if you extend your agreement term or are forced to give them more business, just be careful about increases to your commitment that your business may not be able to support. You got to protect term commitments if you have them instead of rolling to site-specific commitments or annual commitments, the stuff carriers love to lock your business in. Be careful about giving up rate reviews or giving up rate review provisions, and make sure you don't get stuck extending a deal for a really long period of time with no ability to keep your rates at the market level. These are the core traditional tactics that carriers love to use when they can leverage them out of their customers.
And make sure that if you give a supplier business for new services, you don't just blow past technical qualifications to give them the new business, because they are an incumbent, and at least take a shot at getting market pricing for those new services, even if your leverage will be limited. It's really bad to just sign up for whatever the vendor proposes in these circumstances.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. This has been a great discussion, and I think we've given folks just a ton to think about during these crazy times. Now, if you would like to have a one-on-one discussion about your pandemic or disaster planning, you can contact Andrew, me, or any of our LB3 and TC2 colleagues by giving us a call or sending us an email. You can also stay current by subscribing to Staying Connected, periodically checking out our websites, or by following us on LinkedIn. Stay well.